Good morning, everybody. I have a reputation to lose, I understand. As being German, I'm the timekeeper of this session. It is just a myth, I can assure you, that Germans are always on time, but today it worked out. So thank you for joining this session. My name is Sven Fund. I'm from Berlin. I work for Wiley there in open access. This is an interesting, exciting, really opportunity to learn more about innovations in libraries for me. So I'm very much looking forward to a great panel. I'll not do a lot of introductions except a few housekeeping rules to make sure that you all understand, if you don't know yet how this works, that things are going well. So we will have 5 10-minute presentations. I'll keep the time. And then you will see presentations from different individuals, obviously different colleagues on different topics. The idea is really trying to make sure that we all understand how this contributes to solving problems in libraries today and other places. I'm the timekeeper in that respect, that we always leave a little bit of room at the end of all of these 5 sessions together for questions and answers. I hope they will be as focused and brief as possible, both on the question side and on the answer side, so that you get the maximum out of this. Without too much ado further, I think we would just start with Trevor. Everybody does a quick introduction to her or himself, and then we go about the presentation. Good luck and enjoy.
Thank you, Sven. Okay, can everybody hear me okay? The mic's good? Okay. Whew. Okay. Let's started. So hi, welcome everyone to my session on saving circulation data with Microsoft Office during a system change. My name is Trevor Smith. I'm an occasional adjunct instructor at the University of British Columbia and do some stuff with library juice, but my day-to-day job is the monograph acquisitions and metadata librarian at Douglas College. Douglas College, we are a medium-sized community college in Vancouver, Canada, 8,000 FTEs, and I like to acknowledge that our campuses are located on the unceded and traditional and ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples, including the territories of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Coquitlam, Musqueam, and Kakite First Nations. We had a fun situation earlier this year. We moved from our ILS of 23 years to Folio. That's fun. So we could transfer all the mark and item data, but all the book usage and price stuff got left behind. Now, for most people, that's not a problem, but for me, as the collections guide, that's a challenge. So it meant, as an academic library, we don't often weed as much as my public libraries folks do, but if without the historic data in Folio, I can't really do my weeding. The analysis tool they have in Folio, it's called Panorama. It's a Tableau dashboard. I can get some information out, but they're still building the tool. It's not quite as robust as what I'm used to from Sierra and the database options that we had. Also, not a big deal, but price kind of came over, but it's stored in a note field, so I can't manipulate that data. I know cost per circ isn't the greatest and best of all analysis, but I like to have it, and I want to have it. And I'm cheap. I don't want to spend money on Tableau if I don't have to. So I came up with another way to do this. I exported all my records from Sierra and saved them in a database in Excel, in Access, and then created a dashboard in Excel. Now here's, of course, the point where you should be questioning my sanity. Yes, I'm using Access. Microsoft Access, their very, very old database tool. But Excel and Access kind of have good things. We all know Excel, we use it often badly, but we use it. It's user-friendly, it can do a lot of stuff where it's got great tables and charts, pivot tables and charts. But it's bad with storing large sets of data and doing large sets of calculations. It chokes your file, it gets bad. But everything that Excel is bad at, Access is good at. So Access can hold my 140,000 rows of records. I can extend them as well, and it can do those massive calculations that I need. So I tried to balance the benefits and weaknesses of both tools to come up with a great solution. So a pivot table. I've heard a few comments at the conference, like pivot tables, and everyone goes like, yeah, pivot tables. And I'm sure there's a few people in the room go like, yeah, I've heard of it, but help me. So to give you an idea of what a pivot table is, here is my entire catalog in Excel. We've got on the top, we've got the call number, author, title, cat date, catalog date, last check-in, item type, status, renewals, all that kind of good, rich information I've got. But if I wanted to look at something quickly, I'll show you. Okay, play, is that playing? Yes, okay. Up in the top corner, you go to Insert, you hit Pivot Table. It's going to capture the whole range of your table. And if you click Barbara Trick, you've now got a little section on, here's all your headers on the side. Now, I want to count all my book titles. And I want to organize it by the year that it was cataloged, and then by the location. Now, this kind of comes out, scary. But very quickly, I can use my drop-down buttons to look for STC and STN, which I know are my Stax, Coquitlam, and New Westminster, my 2 campuses. And then I click the little button for a chart. There we go. We have a visualization in 30 seconds of my entire catalog. You can also see from that big chart where we did our last ILS transition. Only problem with the Excel is it doesn't have all the stuff I have. It's data that came out of Sierra with other codes. And I still need to know the human readable name of the location. I want to know the human readable name of the country where this came from. Because say I want to exclude in my reading project everything from British Columbia. Everything local, I'm saving that. I can now exclude those by adding access abilities. So in the center, that's just my table that I took from Sierra, put that in, but then added the other stuff of like the item type, the countries, and location in the human readable parts. So access can read those codes and make the connections. You do a little bit extra with some SQL, structured query language, and if I wanted a summary of year-to-date circulation, total circulation, renewals, I can have that do math for me. I'm an English major. Do math for me. So it does that. I can also say, I want the catalog and copyright dates in decades. Like the individual years, I don't care too much about. Give me a group as a decade. I can also say, give me just the last year circ date as a year. I don't care about it was October 31st. I don't know. Just give me the year. That's what I want to know. So then I've extended my table from 20 fields to 42 fields with all kinds of more information of cost per circ and the price rounded up. Just when you're dealing with huge chunks of data like that, you just need to simplify things in a way. Then in Access in Excel, with Excel, you make a pivot table with that access data. And you do that in the get and transform, create a connection, and create a pivot table from the connection. So instead of dumping it into Excel and then having Excel do more work, it's like, no, just go over there, find that file, bring it in, and I can make pivot tables from that. And I made a lot of pivot tables from that. So what this is, it kind of looks like a Tableau dashboard on the cheap, which it is. Across the top there, those are my slicers. So those slicers are little buttons of all those column headings and all the values in there. And then down on the bottom, I've got all these charts linking to price, cost per circ, the call number range, location, cat date, all my different values. And then as I click on things, I can actually ask my data some questions. So, for example, if I wanted to know what kind of books do we have from Charleston, South Carolina, I have to read the history section, and what are the DVDs that circulated a lot? I can now intuitively ask questions of my data. So, what books do we have in Charleston, South Carolina? Is that going? Yep. So I go over here to my country. Colombia, Italy, Nevada, New Zealand, Norway, Philippines, Peru, South Carolina, nobody cares. South Carolina, there we go. Click on that, and suddenly everything flipped on South Carolina. Now I've got a page down the worksheets down at the bottom. There's a dashboard, but there's a title list, and I can now see I've got my things on Gullah Spirituals, Harry Potter, and Windows C# books. Who knew? All right. I can also, when you have to read a certain section, it's a little bit more nuanced of like, I need to do this and not that and not that. So I need to go for the call number D. I'm just doing the Ds right now. I don't want anything cataloged from the past couple of years. I want the old stuff. So anything new cataloged, save those. Grouping it by the decade, and then micromanage it a little bit. If I hit the control, I can deselect some of the groups. And then I can say, okay, if that's the cat years, great. but then I want to say, when did it last circulate? Oh, last circulate a couple of them. And then suddenly, that one takes a little bit. Again, I'm pivoting all this, and you can see that the data pivoting for me, right? And now I've got a list of the titles that I can actually weed. Finally, if I wanted to see my DVDs that have circulated over 100 times, it's a little bit backwards, but I can still do it. I can still select first by location, and then go down to, again, I need to group my total catalog groups. But if I get down to 100, and then go down, go down, go down, go down, I can get that whole range of 100 to my top value, which in this case was a DVD circulated 323 times. Cool. So I can click that, go to my titles, and then see like Moulin Rouge, Monty Python, and all my DVDs that used to circulate. But if I wanted to ask that question, like, oh, who circulated 323 times? I can click on that button, and it's, I'm guessing, a class 1. But you see, this is the great thing about it. You do these reports, and I often find the vendor reports where I'm like, I want to get more out of that. Now I can ask these questions and keep digging into it. And then once I have that, I have a weeding table that I did years ago where I just take the barcodes and it pulls out my pick list. So we can go to the stacks and pull stuff off. But it also gives me enough information if I want to save that book as well. So in closing, Excel and Access are inexpensive and I hope you're seeing fairly powerful tools if you use them in the right way. You can visualize and manipulate your library data for keeping your library healthy, because I find I do one thing, but it leads to another question and another question and another question. So thank you.
Thanks, Trevor. Next up is Gwen Vredevogt and Mason Yang from Marymount University on streamlining the library analysis workflow. You have time to set your charts before the counting starts.
Okay. Good to know. So, how many of you do some kind of library analysis when you've got new courses or new or revised courses or programs? Several of you? Uh-huh. Okay, great. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the problem, and then Mason's going to tell you about our solution, which is the innovative part. So we have, of course we need to know more about what's in our collection when somebody's proposing a new course or a new program. And this is fairly typical, I think, at most libraries. But our process, we were beginning to think that our process was confusing to our faculty, prone to things slipping through the cracks, and time-consuming. When there was a push to make a substantial change to the curriculum at Marymount recently in the last few years, we knew we had to streamline things and do things differently. This is what our old form looked like. The form is on the left-hand side, and a filled-out form is on the other side. And as you can see, this was a Word document that we would send to our faculty. They would fill out the first part. We would fill in the rest of it, the librarians, and then we would send it back to them. It would be attached to their proposal. All of this meant several emails back and forth. They were confused in some cases about when they needed one. Often when we had revised courses or programs, that's when we got questions like, do I really need a library analysis? I'm sure you've all heard that one. And we were doing them for all of those, either new or revised, but often the revised ones, they could be very short because there would be no impact on the library in many cases. So we came up with this chart to kind of help with communicating with our faculty about when we needed one, but even this was not enough to help with that. So this we shared with our curriculum committees, and we got their input about what should be on here, but we still got questions. And people still used the old form that they had somehow saved on their computer instead of the updated one. So our main reasons for change, a lot of change to the curriculum in recent years. We were just swamped with these requests, and they were taking a lot of time, our time as well as the faculty time, to do all of that back and forth. We wanted to do better about tracking the cost recommendations so that we could build that into our next budget request. Whether or not we got the money, we wanted to know what we felt we needed at that point. The program was proposed. And the process was not clear to our faculty who were proposing things, especially newer faculty. And this is I think we had, let's see, over 300 requests in 2022, and that's when we said, oh, you know, this is not working. So Mason will tell you about what we did.
With 300 proposal, which means about 600, 900 email come back for us, right? Which is not happening. So we know that, right? So we don't really want that. So we really want to streamline this, and also the part of with the new faculty, they're not familiar with the process. They don't know who to contact or where to find the form. With the not really older faculty, with the faculty who has years experience, they have the older form. When they send the old form, we're saying that's not working. So anyway, it's not working. So we just want to streamline this process, make sure the faculty don't need to do something extra in addition to their course or program proposal. So we actually have a chance to talk with our registrar office since they are starting using a curriculum management system, starting a new one. So we said, can we just add a couple questions to the form? That way, the faculty just put everything over there. They don't need to fill out another extra form anymore. So that's basically the design principle is we add our question to the curriculum management proposal form. So they just fill out that, and we will automatically get some notification. I'm not mentioning that curriculum management system because this is a record video. They can only send an email to us. They cannot really do anything more than that. So the principle over here is the library people will get the notification for every single proposal. Doesn't matter what kind of a proposal they have. And the principle is over there, you can read, and this is going to be the system. So there is the curriculum management system. Whenever there's a proposal sending to the college curriculum system, we'll get a notification automatically. Once we got the email notification, whoever is monitoring the email will submit a Google form, and that Google form request will generate a Google Doc. That email there will be generated email to the liaison who are supposed to do the library analyst with the Google Doc linking together. So back and forth, when the library liaison finish the library analyst report, they will click, then that will sending that sense back. So I'm going to the detail over here in the next couple page. So the watermark is the curriculum management system we're using, and we have our own library analyst system. We'll basically build on the Google script, but with Google email, Google Sheet, Google Form, Google Docs template all together. So this is the curriculum system. We have the library usage question for them to fill out. When they fill out this, when they submit this to curriculum college curriculum committee will get the notification when the librarian is done. We'll upload the file to the bottom. You can see over there, but this is already done one. And actually, so when we got that notification, somebody on the monitor the reference email will fill out this Google form. When this Google form filled out, it will sending that to a response to the Google spreadsheet. I know everybody knows that already. So then we add a couple column, add some code behind this things, and it will basically do two things: automate this, sending an email to whoever is the liaison over there, and then generate a Google Docs template file with all the information. This is a Google Docs, and pull out the information from the spreadsheet automatically, so the librarian don't need to do those things. There is an instruction embedded to all those in those fields, so telling all the librarian what you're supposed to do. When they're done with that, they have the two steps to finish this. When they do that, they will basically send this file to the university librarian, to the collection librarians, to the whoever needed the file automatically. They don't need to know who it is. They just need to click. Then that was sending out. And when they send it out, that's the back end of the code. I'm happy to share the code with you. But now here, right? That's a big part of this. And talk about the 300 requests. This will definitely save us hundreds hours together for all the librarians. On time, right?
Wow.
I can go really fast.
Super, thank you so much, and thank you for being on time, Gwen and Mason. I'm completely flashed. Next topic, and next on are Christopher Warnock and James Weiser from Helper Systems and Ellie Bean Christian University, respectively, and they will speak about AI.
Amongst other things, yes. Hi, my name is Christopher Warnock. I'm the CEO of Helper Systems, and we develop something different. We develop software that runs on people's computers for dealing with PDF files. And the reason how we ended up there is I used to work at eBury. I was the CEO of eBury. And as we'd go through and visit with libraries, they would tell us about all the different databases that they subscribe to. And all of those databases would provide more and more access, usually to PDF files, or in some cases to PDF files. And that would mean that people would have hundreds, if not thousands, of PDF files on their desktops. And dealing with a bunch of files without any special tools is actually really problematic. And so we sort of came across the idea that, well, if we can build databases out of PDF files and give people tools to make research easier, this could really help students and professors. So what types of features might make research easier? Automatic citations, for one. The ability to find information and to be informed about what is in the database. All of these things are great tools to make research easier and more efficient and to save people a lot of time. So that's what we do. And in this upcoming release, in version 1.2, we're releasing an integration of ChatGPT so that we'll have an interface where people can chat with their collection of information that resides on their computer. Now, in our system, everything's absolutely private. It's only on your computer. There's no visibility into what the software does or anything. So it's a completely private system. Artificial intelligence is a little bit of a different animal, and with artificial intelligence, that communicates with the server, and you're sharing information with the server, so that sort of breaks the privacy. But if you want to use AI, that's the only option that you have, because AI is a networked phenomenon. But the thing that's really amazing about artificial intelligence is, from a software development standpoint, you can add features to the software, capabilities to the software simply by creating a prompt. And to give you an example of this, I've paid an engineer for a year to try and figure out how to parse dates within text so that you can correctly identify a date so that we could build automatic timelines from the collection of information. I'm a big fan of timelines, so that's my fault. But if you write a prompt with an AI and you say, hey, show me all of the sentences that contain a date in chronological order, guess what AI does? It produces a timeline. And that's no programming, that's no nothing. I mean, AI is potentially amazing. And when you have access to a tool and you can converse with it and communicate what problem you want to have solved, and the software just does it, it's kind of it's potentially a game changer. And it's very exciting. So I was going to have my clock running. Yeah.
No one is ever angry if something doesn't go full time.
That's all right. Come on up, James.
Let me get my notes to make sure I don't go too far astray. That's always bad. So my name is James Weiser. I'm the Dean of Library Services and Educational Technology, which informs some of my perspectives at Abilene Christian University in Texas, which is a small school of 6,000 students. But I'm here more to talk about another role I have, and in doing so, I'm going to violate all the advice my spouse has given me for the past 3 years. She got her PhD at age 26, and I am about to finish my doctoral program in higher ed admin at UT Austin. And she told me when I began, you are not allowed to bore our friends with stories of your dissertation or your coursework, because we did all of that 20 years ago and we are over it and we don't want to hear you. So I come to library conferences and bore all of you instead. I really recommend, if you serve libraries, if you're a librarian, if you're a publisher, if you're a vendor, and you haven't been a student in 20 years, go back and become a student. I don't care what program you do. I don't care if you audit a class, but I have to tell you, nothing has informed my perspective as a librarian more than just being a student over the past 3 years. One of the things that I've learned by being a student is that the things that we in the library community think our patrons care about, they don't. This is a broad brush, so walk with me. No one needs help finding things anymore. I know that's really, really hard to hear, but I started my program and we had a wonderful librarian at UT come in and do an orientation session. Most of the students already knew EBSCO databases, Google Scholar. Everybody's using Google Scholar. That's what everybody uses, is Google Scholar. That's one thing I've learned is, they just don't care. And so if we spend our time trying to help people find things, we are irrelevant. But what is relevant, what everybody really wants, is help with doing things with the stuff they have found. And a tool like Chaos, like Helper Systems is developing, is one of those kinds of tools that I think we in the library need to invest in and support. I'll say a little bit more about this tool, not that this is a sales pitch, I'm completely agnostic about it. But as far as my dissertation goes, I did a series of qualitative interviews with librarians about another topic altogether. But one of the things that I found in my research is that librarians, when you get them one-on-one and you've had them in an hour-long interview, are deeply unsatisfied. That's sort of my takeaway. There's a lot of job dissatisfaction among librarians right now. I might spin that to another article or two later on, but I think it's because we don't see the relevance of our work in many institutions. And so I would encourage all of us to spend less time and energy and money buying stuff and more energy buying things that help us with stuff. I'm looking at my notes to make sure that so one of the things I like about this tool is it's publisher agnostic. This conference, this is the end of the conference. I've heard so much about AI, and everybody's developing their AI tool. Claravit's developing theirs. There's Scopus AI. There's, all these providers. And my fear is that we're going to become in the middle of the discovery tool wars again, because ultimately I don't want your silo of content and AI. I want something that sits across and is more agnostic and independent, which this system does. This also really will potentially help your faculty. Teaching faculty are completely wigged out by AI right now. If you don't know that, you're not talking to them. They're trying to figure out how to redo their syllabi to do away with discussion board posts and all the things that AI can do very, very easily. This kind of tool will allow students to be able to show their work, and also sort of moves ahead in the assumption that AI is a tool that can be used for pedagogy, which is, I think, very important. The conference abstract for this says that 37% of academic librarians were interested in investing in AI. That's way too low, and maybe timeliness, the timing of those questions will have impacted. How am I doing on time?
1 minute 60.
1 minute 60.
Is that the same as 2 minutes?
Yeah, 16. So that is all I have to say from a librarian perspective, and as a student perspective, is this tool, when he showed it to me, I was like, yes, that's what I want. So go be students, go invest in tools, and publisher agnosticism is important. Those are my 3 points. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations again, being faster than planned. Next comes Julie from University of Minnesota with a topic on streamlining invoicing. And she's a first timer at the Charleston conference. So welcome.
Let me get my presentation up real quick, and I'm short, so I'll move that down. All right, I'm Julia Rashid, and I am the Manager of Acquisitions and Rapid Cataloging at the University of Minnesota. In our university, we have 2 branches of acquisitions, and I am the branch that does the dinosaur stuff, the print and the physical materials, and we have another wing that does online resources. So today I want to talk about COVID, and I want to talk about how our invoice management process changed due to COVID, and some of the benefits from those changes that I've been able to realize in our fiscal year close process. I'm also the chair of fiscal year close at the University of Minnesota. So pre-COVID, we used to, first of all, to lay a groundwork, the University of Minnesota uses Enterprise Financial Systems, EFS, for paying all of the invoices. So Alma, which is what we use, is more or less a shadow system. And we work with the library's business office, which we call LBO, and process our invoices that way. So traditionally, we would mark up the physical invoice. We would circle the invoice number and sign and date it and write the vendor code on the top so that LBO knows what to do with it. And we would put it into a physical bin, and they would pick up the invoices once a day. And then afterwards, they would actually take those physical invoices and they would scan them and load them into EFS, so they would be paid for by the university. So some of the challenges we face is we are receiving a lot more invoices that are given to us from vendors in PDF form. So we print them off when they come in PDF, and we send them to LBO after we mark them up, and then they turn around and they scan them again. So we were like, why are we printing them off? Why don't we just mark up the PDF? But they're like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. Now COVID hits, and all of a sudden, we know, I think it was March 16th, all of us went home. So we cannot print them off, we cannot circle them, we cannot do anything. And we were at home from, most of the staff were at home from March to August. So we got permission at that time to use Adobe Acrobat to mark up the invoices and to sign them electronically and to upload them to a Google Drive, an LBO Google Drive. So that was really great. And that process is still in place right now. So in June 20th, I had permission to go in and unbox things, et cetera. So I wanted a way to be able to delegate all of the workflow to my staff. And so I was opening them, I was scanning the invoices, but how am I going to get to those to the staff? I could email them, but there was no visibility for me as a manager in terms of who had what, except for going back into email. So, and I also would prepare boxes, and they would physically come in and pick up the boxes to take them home to process. So we decided, or I decided actually, that I wanted a management tool to be able to help me track these invoices. I also needed a tool to track the actual physical pieces, and we also use Trello for that, but I'm talking about the invoices today. So why Trello? Actually, I didn't do I'm just realizing I didn't do the display, slideshow, whatever. Where is it at, slideshow view? I haven't done this forever. I just realized that. Right there?
Next, no.
Next right. No. I'm wasting my time. I guess it doesn't matter. I'm not going to do it. Okay, so before COVID, I was part of a pilot project where the University of Minnesota looked at different Kanban type management softwares, and we looked at Asana, we looked at Trello, we looked at Rike. So I was familiar with Trello. So there's a lot of advantages of using Trello, and I'm sure there's advantages of other systems too, but it had a free team option. It could support multiple users. We had unlimited cards. We could load up invoices. There's different labeling options. It's visually appealing, and it's really easy for staff to use. So I ended up deciding to use Trello. So our setup, and that has changed. We keep refining it, but we have, and I'll show you an example of it moving forward, but we set up a documentation column where we linked a whole bunch of different aids and also the Google Drive that they could load up the invoices. We had a column on pending invoices, ebook invoices, problems, the completed archive, the invoices which we archived, P-card invoices because they have a little bit of a different process, and also the invoices that we had from vendors which the materials hadn't arrived yet in the library, and also the processing invoices like shelf-ready and mark records, which are the ones that I do. And I wanted to show the kind of labels that we ended up with. At one time, we had a lot of labels, but we kind of weeded them down, and we ended up with the labels that you see here, and you'll see them on a card after a few slides. So Trello looks like this, and you can see those representations of the column moving forward. So basically, a staff, the book will come in, they'll put it in the pending column, and then somebody will actually put their little icon on it saying, I've taken this invoice, and when they process it, they'll move it over to completed. Or if it's a problem, they'll move it to problem. We also took over the payment of ebook invoices as well, so we have a column for that, and the other things that I mentioned. So that's kind of what it looks like. And a card looks like this. So what you can do, if you see over here, you see the members, so you can see me and Li Chun Shen there. We put in a label here. This happened to be a P-card one, and it's not yet received. And you can see that you can add due dates to certain things if you've purchased it, so you can click it off, and it'll send you emails if it's overdue. You can put in some notes here you see under the description, and you can attach multiple items to this one as well. That's the first half of the card. The other half of the card, you can add checklists. So for our P-card invoices, we process them a little bit differently. So we do a checklist to make sure staff do all the pieces of those that they need to create the invoice in Alma. They need to mark it up in Adobe Acrobat. They need to update My Wallet, which is part of the EFS system, and they also need to load it into the LBO Google Drive folder. You can also, you can send messages to yourself or to your team. If I have questions as a manager, sometimes I find that very useful to be able to just email people from the card. So the weekly management tips that I have from this particular process is that I do archive the cards out of the completed, closed invoice column. Problems that I have ran into and why I continue to do this is that staff sometimes, because of all the different processes, they forget to actually do the last step, which is to load the invoice into the LBO drive. So obviously it never gets paid if LBO never gets the invoice. Also, there are sometimes like right now the University of Minnesota, the EFS system is taking 4 to 8 weeks to create a new vendor in their system. So it's nice for me to be able to put notes like that on the card so I know why it's not being paid. And also if an angry vendor contacts us, I can say, oh, it's in the process. Also, if it's in vendor address change, it's the same thing. And also, if we have information that's, the fund is in an overdraft, or maybe it's coming from a grant or a foundation fund, that takes a lot longer. So it tells me why it's not paid yet. And then once I know it's paid, then I just archive it. So I can search for it, but it doesn't show up on the actual board. For P-card invoices, they do have due dates, which is great, so you can kind of track that. And you can have the ability to pay that invoice and mark it, but you can also move it. So, and then there's also ability to see which items haven't actually showed up. So for fiscal year close, the important piece, I think, and I'm going to go here real quick, is that we get an unpaid invoice list from our library's business office, and they have different questions. So I go through there, and you see the column where it says comment, ARC, So I'll indicate, like, okay, fine, the books haven't arrived yet, or it's in approval, and I'm able to find out that information from using my Trello board very, very easily. So it makes that process so much faster than it's been in the past. And I also have access to all of the invoices. So if a vendor contacts me, if there's some weird problem, I can actually go into Trello and see the invoices versus going up to LBO and looking through physical files to try to find a document. So yeah, it's been wonderful, and it's super easy for anybody to implement. So that's my last slide, and I'm done.
I'm a little bit shocked that most of you were like ahead of their times. That's great. So wonderful. Now the floor is yours with your questions and comments.